Okay, our review for today, everybody, is our January 2018 exam. So if you couldn't be after school with me, this is here for you. So the first question says, when solving the equation 12x squared minus 7x equals 6 minus 2 times x squared minus 1, Evan wrote 12x squared minus 7x equals 6 minus 2x squared plus 2. His first step. Which property justifies this? So if we ever see that we're going from having a number outside the parentheses to not having a number outside the parentheses, we automatically think distributive property. So that is why it is choice 4. That's the only thing that changed. Okay, going to question 2. It says, Jill invests $400 in a savings bond. The value of the bond V of X is in hundreds of dollars after X years, is illustrated in the table below. Which equation and statement illustrate the approximate value of the bond in hundreds of dollars over time in years? Well, whenever we're looking at this, we can see that it keeps going up the change by a lot more each time. It's not consistent. We know that it is going to be an exponential problem. And since the numbers are going up drastically, it's a growth problem. So getting bigger. And what we can see is whatever it starts at, which is the x value of 0, that's always your A. And then if we take what's ahead of a number and divide by what's behind it, so 5.4 divided by 4, you get 1.35, and that's your B. So we sub into the formula y equals a times b to the x, which is exponential formula, and you get 4 times 1.35 to the x power. If you could not do that, you forgot totally what it is, I highly recommend then you take each of the question or the solutions here and you type in the numbers until you find one that works. We could immediately eliminate choice 2 and choice 4 because we know they're not decaying, they're not getting smaller, and if they're not getting smaller, it's not a decay, so it has to be a growth. So it would then either be 1 or 3. So then, when I look at this one, I'm going to start with the first, and I'm going to get a calculator, and I'm going to do 4, and then in parentheses, 0.65, close parentheses, and then it's going to be to the 0 power, because x is 0. We hit enter, that's 4, so that one works. Now I'm going to highlight this again, but this time I'm just going to change that, and then 1 I'm going to put in, and I hit enter and I get 2.6. That's different from the 5.4 here. So we know that 1 doesn't work. So 3 is the only choice. So if you forgot your exponential growth and decay formulas or your exponential equation, you can always use your calculator and substitute in for a problem like that. For number 3, it says Alicia purchased X half gallons of ice cream for $3.50 each and P packages of ice cream for $2.50 each. She purchased 14 items and spent $43. Which system of equations could be used for this? So remember, when we're talking about money, we're going to have a total of what we're buying without money, so our half gallon and our pint, for a total of 14 items. Then we had the money in. We had $3.50 with the half gallon plus $2.50 for the pint, and it equaled a total of $43. So we look for which one matches this, and we see choice 1 does. So that makes it nice and simple. But be careful of the details on here, because you will notice that some of them, like this guy, does the pints at $3.50 instead of the half gallons at $3.50. So you have to be careful with that. This one switches the total and the money, and this one switches everything. So just be careful for the details. Okay, going to the next one. Okay, number 4. Number 4, it says a relation is graphed on the set of axes below. It says based on the graph, the relation is A function because it passed a horizontal line test, that doesn't exist. It is a function because it passes the vertical line test. If we draw our verticals lines in, because we know we have a vertical line test, it does work, so choice 2 is the answer. And it's definitely not a function, or definitely a function, so 3 and 4 can be eliminated right away. All right, number 5, Ian is saving up to buy a new basketball or baseball glove. Every month he puts $10 into a jar. Which type of function is best modeled the total amount of money in the jar after a given number of months? He's saving the same amount every single month. If it's the same amount of change every single month, that is linear. Exponential change will get bigger or smaller at a higher rate. Quadratic will go up and then down, or then down and then up. Square root will just kind of make a little look like this. But linear will constantly increase or constantly decrease. So you have to think about it that way. Okay, the next question says, which ordered pair would not, so be careful to look for these words, not be a solution to y equals x cubed minus x. So what I recommend you do, and we have access to this, so we might as well use it as much as possible, is pull up your graphing calculator and get yourself a graph. And then you want to type in, it's already y equals, so we just have x to the third power, get out of the exponent, minus x, hit enter. We get our graph, and that can help us because we can look at what each of those points are, but some of those points of given choices were pretty darn big. So we want to hit Control T and see which points are actually on the graph. We want to find the one that is not. So the first one has an x value of -4, so I'm going to scroll up until I find -4. And I do see the point -460, so that is on the graph, so that doesn't work. The next one is -24. That is on the graph, so that doesn't work. For the next one, it's -2, -6. That is on the graph, so that doesn't work. So we know it has to be choice 4. And the point that should be on the graph is -1, 0. And we were given -1, -2. So it's as simple as putting it into the graph and then Control T to look at your table of values. Let the calculator help you. All right, next question. We have some vocabulary, and this is really an 8th grade question. So it says, which polynomial is twice the sum of 4x squared minus x plus 1 and -6x squared plus x minus 4? So twice the sum means to multiply this sum of these two things by 2. So it's 2 times, and then in parentheses, 4x squared minus x plus 1 minus 6x plus x minus 4, because we added these two things together. Then I combine like terms. 4x squared and -6x squared gives me -2x squared. Negative x and positive x cancel each other out. And positive 1 and -4 give me -3. Now that I have my sum, I want to multiply it by 2. So I do 2 times -2x squared, which is -4x squared, and 2 times -3, which is -6. So -4x squared minus 6, which is choice 3. Okay, for number 14, it says, what is the solution to the equation 3 times x minus 4 squared equals 27? Well, there's a couple things we can do here. The easiest way is, since it's already equal to something, and what we can do is divide both sides by that 3 to get rid of it. Then we're going to have x minus 4 squared equals 9, because 27 divided by 3 is 9. The inverse of squaring something is doing the square root, so I square root both sides. So these cancel, and it gives me x minus 4. The square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides, so I get x equals 4 plus or minus 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. So that is one way we can do it. So the choices would be 1 and 7. The other thing that you could do is we can move this 27 over and have 3 times x minus 4 squared minus 27 equals 0. And then what we can do is pull up our graphing calculator. The graphing calculator can be a little finicky sometimes when you have some of these quadratics that are not simplified, so you can try and see if it'll work. So I would do the 3 times x minus 4 squared minus 27 and hit enter, and it does graph it. And when you graph it, it hits the x-axis at 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it hits the x-axis at 1 and 7. Those are also the answers to this. So that would mean you could have got it from your graphing calculator as well. So it's worth a try if you forget what to do to check to see if you can graph it. And remember, the zeros are the answers. So where they hit the x-axis, that's the actual answer to the equation. Number 15 says, a system of equations is shown below. We have equation A and equation B. Which method would eliminate one of the variables? It says multiply A by negative 1/3 and add the result to equation B. So if I multiplied 9 or 5 by negative 1/3, that's not going to eliminate my 4. If I multiply 9 by negative 1/3, I'm going to have negative 3y and a negative 3y. If I add them, I get negative 6y. So that doesn't work. It says multiply equation B by 3 and add the equation. So if I multiply equation B by 3, so I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 3, I get 12x minus 9y equals 24. And I want to add it to 5x plus 9y equals 12. Now I see that I have matching positive 9y and negative 9y. So if I add those together, they will cancel. So that does eliminate a variable in this problem. So that's why it's choice 2. Okay, let's look at 16. 16 says, the 15 members of French Club sold candy bars to help fund their trip to Quebec. The table below shows the number of candy bars each member sold. It says, when referring to the data, which statement is false? The first one throws a red flag for us because it says the mode is the best measure of central tendency for the data. Mode will never be the best measure. Median or mean are the best measures. Mode is never the best measure. The rest you could calculate and you would find they are all true. There are 2 outliers. We have the outlier of 120 and 0 because they don't match the rest of the data. The median, the middle piece of data, if you count in, is 53. And the range is 120 because 120 minus 0 is 120. So the only one that doesn't work is number 1. That was a nice question. Okay. Number 17 here. We have given the set x such that negative 2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 2, where x is an integer. What is the solution of negative 2 times x minus 5 is less than 10? So we want to solve this inequality and then see which one of these fits in. So the first thing I have to do is multiply by doing the distributive property. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 5 is positive 10. And then that's less than 10. Regular equation, subtract 10 from both sides. So I get negative 2x equals 0. I divide both sides by negative 2, and dividing by a negative 2, I immediately say to myself, ding, 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 and I flip the inequality symbol, even with the 0, guys. So x is greater than 0. So when I look at this one, is 0 greater than 0? No. So I look at number 2, is 1 greater than 0? Yes. Is 2 greater than 0? Yes. So number 2 works. If I look at the rest, they have negatives, so they're not going to work because we want to be bigger than 0. Okay, going on. Okay, the next one is looking for a pattern. So it says, if the pattern below continues, which equation is a recursive formula that represents the number of squares in the sequence? So step 1 is 3, 2 is 5 if you count, has 5 squares. Design 3 has 7, design 9 has 4. So we can see we have to add 2 each time to get to the next step. So you add 2, and then we started at 3. So our start value is 3, and we add 2 each time. So these ones don't work because they are equations, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a pattern. So we want to find the one that starts at 3 and adds 2 each time. Well, I see starting at 3 and adding 2. This started at 1 and added 2, so that does not work. So it's choice 3, looking for patterns. Okay, the next one says, if the original function 2x squared minus x, or 2x squared minus 1, is shifted to the left 3 units to make the function g of x, which expression represents g of x? So what you're going to do here is you're going to go to graph. So the first thing we want to do is graph the original equation that we're given. And then we want to type them in until we find one that matches a shift left 3 units. So we have 2x squared, and then it is minus 1. We hit enter, and we see that's our original graph. We hit tab to enter another graph, and the next graph is 2, and then in parentheses, we have x minus squared minus 1. We hit enter, and that went to the right 3, so that one doesn't work. Number 2, we're going to add another one in, and this time it's 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 1. We hit enter, and that did. And guys, you can move these down, so if you can't see something, you can grab them and move them. And they stay color coordinated, so it's okay. So the original graph was here, and it shifted left 3 units to get over here. So that means number 2 was the correct answer. So use your calculator. It will help you, especially for a question like that. Okay, number 20, we have first consider the system of equations y equals negative 1 half x plus 1 and y equals x minus 5. Then consider the system of inequalities y is greater than negative 1 half x plus 1 and y is less than negative x minus 5. When comparing the number of solutions in each of these systems, which statement is true? Well, since these two, if we graph them, you can put them on your graphing calculator, they're going to see they intersect once. So this has one solution. When we graph these, you're going to get a dotted line, and it's you can put these on your calculator and see shaded above. And then you're going to get a solid line shaded below. Oh, yeah, below. You're going to see it has a solution set here, and that's an infinite number of solutions. So it has many, many, many solutions. So it says both systems have an infinite number of solutions. That is not true because linear will never be infinite unless they're the same line. The system of equations has more solutions. Well, this has one, this has infinite, so that's not true. The system of inequalities has more solutions. That is absolutely true because infinite is more than one. And both systems have only one. Nope, that would only be if they were both linear. Okay, going on. Okay, 21. So 21, it says Nora inherited a savings account that was started by her grandmother 25 years ago. This scenario is modeled by the function a of t is equal to 5,000 times 1.013 to the t power plus t plus 25 power, where a of t represents the value of account in dollars and t years after inheritance. Which function below is equivalent to a of t? So we are dealing with exponents, and we know when we multiply exponents, you add the exponents. So here, this is a power of a power. So these would actually give you 25t because a power of a power you multiply. For this guy, we're adding exponents. They're not like terms, so we can't combine them. So it couldn't be. The next one, we give the t to this and the 25 to that. That doesn't have any rule, we know. This one keeps the base the same. We're multiplying, so we add the exponent. So that would give us 5,000 times 1.013 to the t plus 25, because when we multiply, we add the exponents. Okay, for the next one, just a reminder, this is multiple choice, so we can use and solve whenever you want to solve an equation. So we would pull up our calculator and we're going to get a new document. We're not going to save and we're going to add a calculator. Remember, this is in your review packet that shows you all of the calculator functions. We hit menu, we hit algebra, we hit numerical solve. Then we're going to type in our equation, control divide for our fraction, and we have 2 over 3, and then in parentheses, we have control divide 1 over 4 x minus 2, and then it equals control divide 1 over 5, and then in parentheses, control divide, we have 4 over 3 x minus 1, and then we do comma x. So we just type it in just the way we see it. We hit enter, and we get, did I type something in wrong? 2/3 times 1/4 x minus 2 is equal to 1/5 times 4/3 x minus 1 in parentheses, comma x. And we get negative 11.3 repeating. So the correct answer is number 4. So please make sure that you use your end solve when you can. Otherwise, you can make some big mistakes. It'll do it for you if that's helpful. The next one says, which quadratic function has the largest maximum over a set of real numbers? So we want to figure out what the maximum value is. So if we're looking at this one, guys, these two we're going to graph and find the maximum. So let me just move this for a second. This one we're going to see the maximum value is going to have to be in this vicinity. So it's going to be around here because maximum has to do with the y value. So this is going to be about 3. This one is going to have to be here because it's going down and then it's going down. So it's going to be about 5 here. So these ones now we want to pull up the calculator and graph them. So this is where we're going to use our trace function. So we're going to do new document, don't save, add graph. And we're going to type in the negative x squared plus 2x plus 4. And we're going to hit enter. And we're going to do menu, we're going to do trace, graph trace, and we're going to trace till we find the maximum value. There's the maximum, and it's at the 0.15. So 5 is the value here. And then this one we're going to type in now. So let's just add another one. Oops, wrong thing. Go here. And I'm going to type in negative in parentheses x minus 5 squared plus 5. Hit enter, and I'm going to do menu, trace, graph trace. And I'm going to scroll up it until I can find my maximum. My maximum here is at the 0.55. So these are definitely 5. This one's eliminated because it's 3. So let me go back to this. So this one, if you think about what's happening with the quadratic, we're going to have the point negative 1, 1, 0, 3, 1, 5. And then we have the point 2, 5 is going to go over here and then going to mimic. So that means we'd have to be a little above 5 for this one to be the answer. So this means this is going to be 5 point something. So 5 point something tells me my maximum is going to be a little bigger than the 2 5s I have right here. So that's why it's choice 2. All right. Last question for this review. We have this crazy graph. So we just really have to make some conclusions about this graph. And it says voting rates in a presidential election from 1996 to 2012 are modeled below. Voting rates in the presidential elections by age for the voting age citizen population. So we can see we have one line, which is 65 and over, 45 to 64, 30 to 44, and 18 to 29. So we want to read these and see which one makes the most sense. It says, which graph does not correctly represent the voting? So this is something that is wrong, so we don't agree with. So it says, for citizens from 18 to 29 years of age, the rate of change in the voting rate was greatest between 2000 to 2004. We can see from 2000 to 2004, the line was the steepest, so the slope is the greatest, so that is true. For the next one, from 1996 to 2012, the average rate of change was positive for only two, it says for 2 age groups. So we have to look at if they were positive. If we did, we have a rate of change here that increased. So that's positive because 39 to 45. 56 to 59 is positive. 68 to 67, that's a negative, so that doesn't count. So we have a plus here, a minus there, and 69 to 72, that's a plus as well. So it's positive for 3 of them. So that makes this one false because it says 2 age groups. So that means the rest of them would be false. So you have to make sure you read carefully and look for key words like what is not correctly being interpreted or what is true. You have to read very carefully. So that is it for today's review. If you have any more questions on this, please feel free to see me. And this is, of course, for you if you could not stay after school. Thank you and have a wonderful day.